Maybe I suffered through some traumas before. And because of that, I have not healed many aspects of myself. And I have a deficit on that. It doesn't make you less human. It makes you human because we all carry something. It doesn't have to be a separate between church and mental health and guidance, because just like God creates the doctor, He creates the therapist. In this life, we are processing things and we're also growing. And you have to be intentional about how you show up, because to just carry it and keep having it, you're going to continue to lack in every aspect of your life.
How excited are we that we've come to the time and we've come to the space that we have the opportunity. We've told you earlier that we were going to have Lisa Marie Lovett from Seasoned Dialogue here with us to have conversations around. This month is February, and we often talk about love in the month of February, but how excited are we that we get to talk about self-love? Yeah. So we're going to depart from the traditional conversation of cuffing up, if you will. And we're going to talk about, before I cuff up and boo up, what does it look like for me to love me? Love myself fully. Love yourself fully. Love yourself rightly. So Lisa, we're so excited.
Thank you.
To have you here in the time that we've spent.
I know it feels like it's been like months of trying to prep and prepare, and just a lot of side conversations about what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? She's coming. Yeah. And I was, in full disclosure, was at the airport, and I had told you this earlier, where there was this moment where I was like, it's a scam. She's not coming. I'm panicking. And so then it was this crazy moment when I was like, this is real. This is really happening. And so we're blessed and honored for you to be here with us. And I think the road to kind of getting to this point or sitting here has been a really cool journey for us. And also we're really big on self-worth and self-esteem and compassion and love. And so we had kind of stumbled across your work many, many years ago. And I think I'd let you probably speak to that, because I think she stumbled. She used to share your videos with me all the time. I think that was when you were heavily on Facebook, or if you're even on
the
Facebook
books
anymore.
Faces.
But you had found her and sent her to me a while back, and I immediately identified with what was being said, not just for me, but I think a lot of what you talk about and a lot of your content, it goes a little bit deeper than just words on a page, right? Some of it can really hit deep in your soul. And so I think that's something, when you can take something and not just kind of you said the other day, if you could take something and not just make it pretty. Yeah. I can make something just sound pretty, but if you can take something and you can then change somebody's life with it, allow them to hear or see something that they've never heard or seen, that's life-changing. That is a beautiful, that's art. That it speaks more to your soul even than it does just something nice in a book or on a page too.
Yeah, I think for me, even one of the first things that you said after I was like she actually responded to me after I got past that moment. And I want to even talk about that a little bit. You have a poem in the book, and I just got stuck there for days. And it talked about beyond the bargain, more than you bargained for. And I think, and I've said this to you, that it's one thing for me to see myself, okay, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. It's another thing for people to reflect who they believe I am externally, onto me. It's another thing, and this is what this moment is for us all. I believe it's another thing for the Lord to say, here is this vessel. Here is this person. Why? I was like, Lord, why? He said, because this is who I see you as. This is who I want to bring in this space. And we say here on our podcast, you do the work to do the work, right? And let's do it for the people.
That's right.
What does that mean? That means a lot of the work that we do based on the places of triumph and healing that we come from. And even as we sit in the seat, no one's arrived.
Yeah.
We're all working it out. So when you think about it in that aspect of it, the Lord is like, I want to teach you how to be. Like, sometimes you choose the work.
Yeah.
Sometimes the work chooses you.
Yes.
And so this work chose us, right? And I can remember giving out your poems or listening to your poems, and I'm like, do I fully even see myself? Do I feel it really stopped at my nice age?
Come on.
Me to stop and think, have I loved myself rightly?
Wow.
Have I done that? And a lot of times as people, we're in a helping profession, and people that are in help people professions, we are people first.
Yep.
So that becomes this one-way giving, or this unilateral, not unilateral, but unilateral thing where you're giving out, and sometimes you schedule yourself out. You forget.
Yes.
And we share. And I was only a few days yesterday, a couple days old, when I realized your counseling competencies on top of what you do. Because it wasn't just, well, let me go get her because she does this, she has this. I came because God said, come.
Yes.
And I truly, in everything in me, believe you answered because he said answer.
That's right.
And so when you think about it in that respect, what does it look like for people to go beyond more than we bargained for? And while we're talking about self-love, what does it look like to start with just even seeing yourself? An individual seeing themselves?
Yeah. I think that we all identify with something that we lack. I think we walk through in this space knowing what we carry. And many times we don't want people to see it. We see it. It's apparent to us. And I think it is just being honest with yourself about it, whatever it is that you lack. And the thing about it is, too, everybody's experiencing something. Everybody has something that they feel like is a lack of self-worth or self-value. And this is what I hold. It's exploring the identity of what that means to you. We were talking about it in a previous conversation where you can walk into a room and you have all of the things on the outside that look good, and they garner, to make you feel, notable or well known, but you can walk into a room and still feel like you're not valuable based on the people that are sitting in the room or based on the conversations that are had. You can be in a space with family and don't feel valuable based on maybe the stories that they told you, what you believed about yourself in congruence to your family. Relationships do it. You find yourself in spaces where you're broken down. Someone may make you feel a certain type of way, but you have to own that. And then the other part of that is, once we look in the mirror, whether that is the physical mirror, the spiritual mirror, it is, okay, now I've called out that thing. What am I going to do to go forward with it? Because I know I lack this. Maybe it's, I lack the ability to show up as bright as I can when I shrink when it comes to being in a room full of people. I lack loving myself because I honored people before me and lost myself in the process. I know that maybe I suffered through some traumas before, and because of that, I have not healed many aspects of myself, and I have a deficit. Own that. It doesn't make you less human. It makes you human because we all carry something. Just be honest with what you don't have. It's okay. Because we are in this life, we are processing things, and we're also growing, and you have to be intentional about how you show up, because to just carry it and keep having it, you're going to continue to lack in every aspect of your life. It carries not only into your personal life, you'll see it in your work environment. If you lack the self-love or the worth within yourself, you'll realize also in work showing up, in parenting, in relationships, in friendships, that carries all abroad. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually, when you were saying that, I had seen it online, and when I first read it, I thought it was like super cheesy.
Yeah.
But I was reading this thing online, and they were like, you got to name it to tame it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't like that. It's cheesy. But then I was like, oh, but kind of, yeah.
It's true.
I think a lot of, especially when you come from a background, like I was raised a little bit more like conservatively as a Christian. And so for us, the first thing we're going to say is, I'm not speaking that over myself. I'm not going to claim that. I'm not speaking that. I'm not. But then I often found that there was a lot of avoidant behavior in that too. We're not speaking it on ourselves, but we're also not addressing it at all. It's almost like being kind of swept under the rug and not necessarily addressed head on. But you said something earlier about, what we carry. And I remember telling you this a little bit ago about how I was identifying with this hymn, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, earlier this week. And I remember sitting in my room, and it came on, and it was against my will. It was just playing, like playlists do. And it was just playing, and it came on, and I just sat there and just wept.
Yeah.
I'm told that was my great grandmother's favorite hymn.
Wow.
And so I've always really identified with it. But something about carrying something that wasn't mine to carry in the first place, or that I wasn't designed to carry. And I think the comfort that comes, I think like the weeping for me wasn't a sad weeping as much as it was, what a privilege it is to carry everything to God in prayer. Like what a privilege I have access.
That's right.
To then not have to carry this alone.
Yes.
And so I'm naming it and identifying it, but then I get to choose to say, I can't carry this
carry it anymore.
And I don't know how to fix it either.
Yes.
But I have this access. This privilege.
Or this privilege. As you were talking about it, I was thinking when it comes to even like spiritual coping or spiritual failure. Have you run across that? Or the fear, did I pray enough? Am I good enough? It's the enough things. But if I'm carrying it and it's a privilege and I get to approach boldly, then what does that look like? I was telling her one day, she said, you don't want to complain. I said, no, you don't, but there is a whole book like a Lamentations.
Yeah.
like a whole book. Like you don't want to get stuck there, but there is a lament sometimes of the heart. And I just want to talk around that a little bit. How do you see what you do as an art? I can tell you, as a counselor, as a therapist, I have used your material to speak to the lament of the heart. And we know that sometimes you can sit in a thing, but your insight is not there, if that makes sense. And I believe in the name it, to tame it, or like you said, just own it.
Just own it.
I think I often would tell even my children when I was raising them, I would say, you are not the sum of your circumstances.
That's right.
That's one thing.
Yes.
That's one piece of you. Like, am I enjoying it right now? Not really. But it's only one piece.
That's right.
Because I never wanted the thing. We keep calling it a thing, and I love that.
Yeah.
Because I often say everybody has a thing. Right? But where do you see the work that you do answering the lament of the heart?
Yeah. In reference to poetry, I find myself writing is allowing myself to feel it. Writing has a language of its own. Many times, many people, it's hard for them to say something out loud, but it's easier for them to write it on paper. And it's because you don't have to think about it. It just flows. And so for me, poetry is pouring out these bits and parts and pieces and emotions and providing it. For me, it was always for me. But then I recognize that in sharing, and that's the beautiful thing about vulnerability and also testimony, is that it touches someone and they have lived that experience. And so it's an offering.
Yeah.
It is literally an offering. It's an offloading as well of emotions, of past things that I've experienced and lived through presently. It's also a conversation from my past to my present self. And it's, again, an offering to someone. And it's a ministry as well.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really walk away from the meshing of words that come from the deepest level of your soul. It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know when you were saying like it was originally for me, and now it's kind of for every
Yeah.
like there's so many people that are touched by your work, people that you'll never even meet in person, you know. And one thing you were saying, or we had kind of talked in a previous conversation about how pain feels a little bit different when it shows up in your room,
Yes.
or it hits your home, or it
Yes.
hits the people that you love. And I've learned over the course of my career, like being as a bedside nurse and in other places, taking care of people, that there's a pain that can be very palpable too, like very present in a room.
Yes.
You know, and I've learned so much compassion in that space, but I've also learned to have room for pain that I don't understand. That's happening in other people's world and other people's lives. Like, I don't have to get it.
That's right.
But if it's hurting you, it's important to me.
Absolutely.
You know, even if it's never touched my life or my home. And I think that's something like she always says, and you know, I'm like stealing this from you, but she would always tell me when I was growing up that pain is the great equalizer.
I
She's
like that.
like, you come from different walks of life.
Yeah.
You may not had the same educational background, grew up, but something almost every person on this earth can understand. And something that Jesus understands is pain.
That's right.
Is the presence of pain in your life, and how, but navigating it. I think understanding it, the lived experience, the shared experience that we've all experienced some type of pain, but then learning how to navigate it
Out
is something
there.
totally different.
Yeah, and even when we navigated, I want to ask about, and I've thought about this, your process. Is there an intentionality? Like, sometimes I'm reading your poem and it is resonating in a way, and I'm like, does she intentionally craft these words in this way, and are thinking, when I write this, I want it to land, like you said, you don't know all of the, we don't even infinite number of people that may come across your work, but is there an intentionality that when I write this, I want to evoke, that's the word I'm looking for, or I want to address or allow people a soft space to land on this difficult topic.
Yeah.
Because I know in the book, Let Me Write This Gently, my baby, it seems like you put them in kind of segments, or we were going through the book because we talked about doing the book club that we're doing with the group of ladies that we're doing it with, and we picked up your book and said this. We want to tell you guys that we're going to read chapter 1, 2, 3, but we can't. I'm stuck on chapter. Why? Because I think sometimes knowing is different from knowing.
Yes.
And I often say the longest journey that a person can travel is from the head to the heart.
Wow.
So is there an intentionality that you know that someone may pick up your material and it may open an insight in a different area?
When I'm writing. But then I recognize that, you know, you can say a poem, roses are red and violets are blue. And that's so surface to me. But to write something with the intention of, now I have to divulge my feelings. Now I have to sit with the emotion. I have to describe what it feels like. I can't just say I'm sad. Right. You know, that to me is surface. Now I got to intertwine what sadness really means. From the point of point A to point B, what sadness defined for me. And so there is intentionality to say a thing and serve it well, but at the same time, it's a story being told. And I won't say that I write for people, I write for myself. But what I'm learning, as I said before, is that many people have experience. It's billion trillion people on earth.
Right.
Do you really think that your story is so unique?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, we have the same kind of story. And I'm glad that it resonates. But often, just like a testimony in church, when you say it out loud, somebody else knows and feels that story that you have been a part of. And that's why it resonates, because you're not alone. You're not by yourself in it. And you can put language to a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I was talking to this person the other day, and we had this small clip, and we were talking, and it was specifically something where I was talking about my lived experience with like DV and other things like that. But I was talking about the other side of it, like how the Lord had helped me to like shift some things and change, I think, my lens or my perspective or how I was living. One interesting thing that I found on that video is how many people would come out and say, this is so relatable, or I'm really struggling with this.
Wow.
And I remember sitting with it and being like, I'm talking from my experience. And of course, we're here to help. This is what we're doing. But there was a moment, and I eventually just told one of the girls, I hate that you relate to that.
Wow.
I wish that was a less relatable experience. I wish that less people did have to experience that. But I'm grateful that you landed. You seem to have landed in the right place, because here I am being able to be on the other side of it.
And people feel seen.
And they feel seen and heard. And I think, and I almost feel like that in some ways. Do you feel like your art and how you write was a mode of healing for you specifically?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I feel like that, like when we were talking the other day, we'll always say we believe heavily in counseling over here. We love therapy. But there's so many different ways to heal.
Yeah.
And we say counseling only? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's some people that don't, that experience complete deliverance immediately.
Yeah.
There's some people that walk it out with friends and family.
That's right.
Some that walk with therapy. But I feel like for me, art can be an expression.
Yes.
Of the way that you experience, like you said, different emotions, pain, joy, and all of those things. It can be a way to channel.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a season of my life where I had went through, I had some pretty bad like postpartum depression. So I was really struggling. I had my baby premature, and he was in the hospital. It was COVID. There was a lot going on in that season. And my mom was a primary support for me.
Wow.
But I remember kind of going through the house, and as you do when you're experiencing the weight of the world, I was like really struggling.
Yeah.
And the house is a mess. Like everything, like my external world was reflecting my internal world, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I remember, we were like, okay, we'll get into therapy. We'll go back to church. We'll do all these things. We'll kind of set all these things up. And as I was setting them up, one day I was kind of cleaning and frustrated, and I had this upright piano in my home that I hadn't played in years. And I remember walking by it and thinking, I just really got to throw that thing out. I've got to throw it away. Wow. It's in the way. Look at all this mess. Yeah. My life's a mess, and this is a mess. And I just remember in that moment, the Lord told me to sit at it when I was in pain. And I remember just being like, okay, whatever, it stays. I still got to clean up after the babies and all that stuff. And the interesting thing about that season is that I've had seasons of my life where I was in therapy. I've had seasons of my life where I was healing in the church in a pastoral relationship. In that season, I healed sitting right there on that bench. And that was, if you had asked me, how are you going to heal from this season of your life, I'd have said, definitely gonna go sign up for therapy, or definitely gonna go to church, definitely gonna do it. And I actually ended up doing all of those things. Yeah. But it was interesting to me that the Lord would say, do that. Yeah. Instead of doing something that was, to me, made the most sense. Yeah. Right. And so to me, art has become a form of healing. Absolutely. You can heal under that, or express, or at least get it out of you.
It's not art is not in a box. Yeah. You can do with it whatever you want to do. You can create your own. And I think that is why it's so healing. Right. You can make it your own.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah. How do you see, let's just take just like a tiny pivot. Or is it a big, it's not a big pivot to me, because I am fully integrative. in my faith.
Yeah.
Fully integrative in clinical healing processes. I don't see them as two different things.
Yeah.
I see them as both. So
Yeah.
there's a school, and I've done research, on it, that there's a school of thought. We call it the contention between the cross and the couch. Right? Where there's schools like you can only heal in therapy.
Yeah.
You can only heal,
Yeah.
at the altar. And then don't get that wrong. And I would have to tell, or people would say to people, there is deliverance. You have to know where you begin and end.
That's right.
So when we go to these conferences, and you have a culmination of a pastoral clergy, and then you have us come together as clinicians, we converge. One of them is in Nashville, AACC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we converge at AACC, and we have workshops around what does it look like for it not to be either or under that track of mental health and the mission of the church.
That's right.
I was so grateful when they came up with that, because it doesn't have to be either or. It could be either or.
Yeah.
But they created a space for the both and.
I love that.
I bring fully to myself clinical processes, competencies, but at the end of the day, for me, I believe in letting everybody autonomy.
Yeah.
Right? We have to let people have that. But for me, I believe all things, God is all knowing. So anything we do in our competencies come from that. How do you see yourself melding in that integrative space when you talk about clinical practice, and that is grounded on biblical truths?
The Bible, when we think about faith, it is instructional. And in order for you to understand, you have to understand the instructions. And it's the same thing when you think of the clinical space. You have to listen. You have to be a hearer. And you also have to be a doer. And so both of those things intertwine. I also believe, and I'm glad that you brung that up, that it doesn't have to be a separate between church and mental health and guidance, because just like God creates the doctor, he creates the therapist, and they become the bridge. Collectively working together, many times you help a person understand a thing. Perhaps they didn't know what faith looked like, but you gave them hope in seeing them and being present with them. And so when we speak of both, for me, I can't have one without the other. I gotta have them together, because it's instructions interlaced into that. And it's also the knowing that whatever I'm learning and whatever I have, I also know that God gave it to me. It's not without. I can read it, I can study it, I can have it, but compassion is something that you don't learn. That's something that you have. Grace is not something that you learn. That is something that God gives you. And so we have to sit in that and recognize that beyond us is something greater. And we have to utilize those pockets in everything that we do. And so, in that professional space, you listen to people, but you can't be stoic. You have to have a heart. And you cannot... God graces us with all of those things. And I believe that is what's needed in a space when we speak of people being vessels. Because I can listen to you all day. But if I don't have the grace, if I don't have the heart, if I don't even have the compassion for you, then I'm just another person sitting in a chair.
In the space.
Yeah.
So true.
I thought about where it all came together for me, and I'm like you. Like I see I used to have a professor that says, find your grapes in the vineyard.
Ooh.
Stump your own grapes.
Yes.
And so what does it look like? There's a place where I am, because I'm not a pastor. So I'm a lot of times, unless I'm on some type of intercessory team or something like that, I may not be at that deliverance moment. And where was Jesus
Come on.
when the woman was writing?
That's right.
And he's like, not paying attention to anybody. Everybody flee, who was probably complicit, but I don't know. I'm not going to go into the hermeneutics of that. But when he looked up, he said, woman, where is your accusers? Does that make sense? And so I had to sit there in a moment and realize, Simon, the enemy decides to sift you like wheat. You can't sift a human.
Come on.
If you look in some of the translation, it says confound the mind.
Yeah.
And so once I looked and I said, oh, that is why he wants to use us as a conduit in the clinical space in that way.
Yes.
Because we can travel alongside, because the accuser then becomes, depressive symptomology.
Yes.
We don't come here like that.
Come
we
on.
don't come here. We are born fully. When he knew us, he knitted us in our mother's womb, and then we drop into the human experience.
And you know what I think about too? Even having the capacity to hold it, because many people don't have that. Just like I could never be a nurse, because I don't like the sight of blood. Right? That wasn't given for me to hold. But God gives us different things because we have the usage to sit in it, or to have it or to hold it, and to be a vessel for someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. It's not us. We didn't give it to ourselves.
Right.
There is something beyond us. God gave it to us. And so when I think about that in the theory of just being a therapist or a counselor, it is, you have to have the capacity to hold it and sit with someone and have multiple people in your seat and you not crumble.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about counselor wellness and things like that. And I think having the capacity to hold something for somebody else while you're also holding your own stuff, your own life, your own things that are happening.
Yep.
But I love when you said earlier, compassion is one of my favorite words, and she gets on me all the time because I'm like, listen, I will talk about compassion all day. But I love how you had mentioned that it was like, that was something that is, that you kind of grow into, like you learn into it.
Yeah.
You have a surface level of that a little bit, to even go into a profession or to do anything that is for other people.
Yeah.
But I think there's also this other level of it that, like, as you sit in those rooms and those spaces, and as you do any missional work, no matter what type of missional work it is, the more you sit with people, the more that grows.
Yes.
As you sit with people and you begin to watch them live their human experience.
Yeah.
And hold them while they do that.
That's right.
And it'll change your whole perspective on, I think, number one, I think the importance of human life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell her all the time, I'm like, it's a wonder that Jesus even likes us. I'm shocked. I'm like, he's like, he loves you, and I'm like,
he does.
But he does. And I think that's just something that I've over the years, like I had to care for people, but there's this shifting where it turns into, and I always tell her, compassion is mercy and love that are kind of petitioning on somebody's behalf.
That's right.
So it is a moving thing.
Yeah.
It's active.
It is.
It's active, and I think when you think about helping, and like you said, even when you were talking about the way that you do your poems, like it's for me and things like that. There's a lot of compassion in that, or even being able to be vulnerable to share those things out in a way that other people can receive it and be changed by it.
And even thinking about, because this is the thing, right? There was such a separation out there. So for a lot of times, us as counselors and therapists, we would tuck and hide.
Yeah.
Because we're like, we don't want to be seen as not.
That's changing a lot.
It is changing a lot.
Reading the other day, it was like 87% of pastors now support therapy and mental
Yes.
health.
Yeah.
And I think there would have been a time in our nation, specifically here in the States, where that would have been a completely different,
Oh, yeah.
different stat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Different story. So what does it look like now that we're having these conversations and we're coming together?
Yeah.
And the research the research that we landed on, I want to say in 2015 at AACC, and just continued that work, and to have Christian therapists and psychologists. And I know you've run across Sing Young Tan at some point, and him talking about what does it look like for us all to meet in the healing space, because it is the changing or a change process.
Yeah.
So where do you see your work? Like you said, compassion. And when you think about compassion in our space of Judeo-Christianism, you think about the sacrifice
Yeah.
that was made, right? And so when I sat there, I said, okay, that sacrifice. Talk about the sacrifice that it takes for you to be vulnerable in that way and allow your healing process to be, like you said, a mirror.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
She's like, I don't know.
Number one, there's a personal sacrifice. Because it takes a lot to strip away parts of you that are so hidden that perhaps you don't want your family to see, and many times you don't want to look at. But what I've learned about vulnerability and openness is once I let that go and you see it for what it is, I don't have to make up a story about it. It is what it is. I gave it to you. You see it full-fledged, and I don't have to make excuses for it. I don't have to carry it or hold it. It is not at the precipice of my life where I see that this is taking over it's open. And with it being open and vulnerable, now I can put voice to it. And I can say it out loud, and it becomes, again, a testimony in my own life and walking in it, and somebody can touch it, and somebody can see it, and somebody can feel it, and they no longer feel stuck in the same thing that perhaps I was battling with, someone else is battling with. I got a scar. Guess what? I got a scar too. You know, when it's seen, we feel seen. We feel like we're not on the opposite of it. I'm congruent to you. And if I can show my scar and show you, at one time it was ugly, but it ain't the prettiest, but it's healed.
Right.
And I got through it. Perhaps you can show your scar too. And we can just be scar buddies, you know, because we have healed through this and we're okay. And it doesn't make us ugly. It makes us human, because all of us have something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when I was thinking about the title of the book, and we listened to this, there's points that I would get to and poems that I would get to. You ever heard that meme? Am I the problem? They'll be reading out. Is it me?
Is it me?
I'm like, oh, I think I have some more healing to do.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm reading the book, and here you are popping in the camera on whatever platform. I said, this poem is not in the book, man. Like, this is bringing up another level of healing. But you were talking about being someone's calm, but also when you accept me fully, you accept what may be disruptive, or a hurricane, or the part of me. I interpreted or received it like this: when you receive me, you receive all of me.
That's it.
And that includes the part of me that's not healed.
That's right.
And here comes that unhealed piece.
Yes.
And again, we'll go back and say that unhealed piece is not the sum of me.
Yeah.
But it is part of me.
Yeah.
And so where is the space when we receive one another, we receive the hurricane that comes along? I may be your calm. I may be your hurricane.
That's right.
You know, and the layers of that.
Yeah.
So can you talk around that a little bit, the surface and the deeper parts of it?
Yeah. I think, like we were discussing earlier, all of us have duality. We have many aspects of ourselves that will show up different for everybody else. And the closer that you are to someone, the more they see from you. And so while I can be my friend's calm, she might not see the hurricane that comes behind it, but perhaps my children see it. I can be their calm and the calamity because of the closeness that we have. It doesn't mean, now, if the calamity supersedes the calm, then we got a problem, right? But we all hold something. But you also make space for me because you love me and you know that I have the duality of whatever it is that I hold. And that is a part of compassion that we have to have for each other. But again, if the negative outweighs the positive, then we're going to have some conversations.
And see, we always talk about like the difference or trying to define it. Because, you know, like we said earlier, this goes out to a lot of people and you don't know who they are or what they've been through. And we always talk about there's a difference between experiencing someone's humanity and then experiencing repetitive, harmful, kind of maladaptive kind of behaviors where it's like we talked a little bit about over the winter months about 1/3 of Americans right now are no contact with their family or estranged with their family. That's a lot of people.
That is.
Millions of Americans that weren't able to reconcile. You know, and so we were talking about that, and I remember when we were having that conversation, a lot of people were coming forward and talking about how many conversations that they do have. And the difference between, there were some people were like, hey, we had this conversation and I realized I needed to change.
Yes.
And because I love you, I change for you, or I change, or I work on this portion of myself. And then you had another group of people that were like, I communicated and communicated and the change unfortunately never came. And when we were reading page 8 in your book.
Please tell me about
page 8 wrecked me, and I was like, I'm not ready, and it wrecked our whole group. We never. I don't even honestly think we made it past page 8. Like we did, but we didn't. Yeah. We rested there, you know. But you were in that one. You're talking about, you know, the Lord sending the kind of friend, not the kind of friend that has capacity for you, and I was like. You know, I think when you get to a certain age, relationships become a little bit complicated and a little bit hard. And I'm in that season of they call us the sandwich generation. I got my mama over here and then I got my kids right here. And so you're caring for somebody else at all times. You know, your life is not really your own. You know what I mean? It's for somebody else, everything that you're thinking and doing. And then so you're in the background, you're trying to navigate, what does it look like to be a friend to somebody? I don't know. I got parent pickup at 2. And I got lunches to pack, and my baby said she wanted to do lunch at school today.
That's the reality.
You know, so I think there's that piece of it. But when I was sitting there, page 8 is like, can I read a little bit of it? Read that part. But this is called God Sent and Heart Kept. And look, I'm reading to you like you've never heard it. You wrote it. But you started off by saying, today I pray for friendships, for those that evolve naturally and become long-term connections that bridge the gap between fear and hesitation. And I pray that everyone experiences the kind of friendship that provides peace without performance, truth without tension, and presence without pressure. And I don't know why. The rest of it is just as profound. But for some reason, I had highlighted the kind that reminds you were never too much.
Come on.
You were just waiting on the people who had the capacity.
Come on.
And I was like, excuse me, like I'm done with the book. I'm just actually going to put it away. But I think about how many people, and I'm just being honest, that how many, I'll say women that look like me.
Come on.
And sound like me, that are told that they're too much.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
Too big for the room. Too much to handle, too much to, and so the idea of praying, especially if you're somebody who's like a big achiever, like you like to achieve things, and or the Lord shows you a lot of favor, and then you walk into spaces and you're constantly saying, "Ooh, how do I make myself smaller,
so everybody else around me can be comfortable,
so they can feel comfortable." And so I remember reading that and being like, I never thought to ask the Lord, because I can ask him anything. And I never thought to ask the Lord for the type of people that have capacity for me.
Because, you know, when I wrote that, it was from a space of, we identify friendships from the young parts of ourselves. So the connection and friendships in school. And so it starts off being one thing. And then as we get older and things happen, we get married, we have kids, we realize that we cannot be perhaps present the way that we used to be. Dynamics change. And so when I said I'm going to pray for God, please send me the type of friends that have the capacity to hold me, it's understanding that in this season of change, or wherever you see a change, that if it's not for you, that I'm not finished. Let's not argue about it. Let's just understand that perhaps we have grown apart. I still love you, but you also acknowledge that perhaps I can't be present for you and you can't be present for me in the way that life is developing. The other thing is, to your point, you know, someone to have the capacity to understand you as an individual, to know she's a high achiever. She wants these things in her life. Now I need to assess myself as to, why do I feel a certain type of way for my friend when God is leading her to something great? Either I'm her supporter, or because I know that I have a jealous and envious heart, perhaps I need to step back. This is a me thing. And I need to have friends who can hold that. I need to have friends who, this is one of the things that happened that called to me writing this as well. You know, many people don't know how to hold a friend in grief. And so when a person is grieving, they are no longer themselves. When they lose a parent, they are no longer like they were before. You go through a process. I lost friends in the process of losing my mother because I couldn't be attentive to them. I was their go-to. And while I'm racking my brain, while I'm crying and I need you, all I hear is that I'm not present for you. And so, Lord, send me the type of people who can understand what this looks like. Because perhaps they're not in it, but at least be there for me. Because when it comes your time, I can be there for you and hold your hand. And we need to be intentional about praying for the type of people in our lives, because life is ever evolving. It's going to change. My life is going to change. My circumstances may change. I may get sick.
Right.
Are you going to be the type of friend that's going to be there and weather the storm with me, or does it become too much and you have to pull back? God, let the people around me have the capacity to be with me. And again, it doesn't mean that you're an awful person because perhaps you can't hold it, or perhaps you're not ready for it. But for me, I'm going to call into action to have the type of people around me who can understand me at every pivot, shift, movement in my life, because we all need somebody.
We do.
You know what that puts me in mind of? When I had a season out there that I was like, Lord, let me be like to people like you talk about in the work that I do and in the person that I am.
Yes.
Or there's a difference in being and doing. But I remember sitting down studying, and he reminded me of that scripture that says, call for the skilled women that mourn. And if you look at it in context of when that was written, there were women that literally went in the funeral procession. And when families lost people, they lamented and they cried. And I never knew what that looked like until I went to Israel. And I had the opportunity to go to the, I guess we call it the Wailing Wall.
Okay.
My grandmother had painted a picture of it for me, because she would always say, I need to go to the Wailing Wall.
Wow.
And when she got to a place of prayer. But there are the skilled women that mourn. And I'm just going to drop this in the space for whoever, you are and are going to be. There's a skill to being a woman that holds the capacity. And there's a difference between grieving and mourning.
Yep.
And I often tell people grief is like a wave. We live in a beach city. So I like that analogy. Like, I can tell the tourists because I'm sitting on the beach. And the wave comes and it will pummel them. They're not paying attention. That's what grief is like. But being a people watching, that's okay, man, what you going to do? I'll sit and wait. And you have two kind of people. Mostly, by and large. By and large, you got I'm getting out. I don't want nothing to do with it. I ain't going back in. So you'll have that person, the water's coming and they're inching back.
And now fearful.
The fear has
to the ocean is powerful. It's a powerful place to
teach you. It'll teach you.
It will.
That's what grief is like. And or you have that person, and I'm this girl. Now the wave is coming. I'm about to put my feet solid in that sand, and I'm about to stand, and it's gonna hit me. And I know it's gonna hit me. But I'm facing it, and when it pummeled them, I wasn't looking. So grief. That's what grief is like. But now this is where I think the pivot comes to mourning. I know it's a process. I'm going to face it.
And there's, not to add a third person to your analogy,
person.
Being somebody who's always swam in the ocean, eventually when I was younger, we would learn to watch the swell and dive before the swell breaks. Because once it breaks, you're pretty much you're pretty much in for the ride. It's going to take you where it takes you. But as you watch it swell, you can dive head first.
I like that.
Into the pain, into the mourning, into the you dive. You just you dive, and next thing you know, the wave's back there, and you're still in the calm.
I like on the other side of it, right? So that's a whole nother conversation of how we house the skill of being skilled women, how to show up in that way. Like you said earlier, some of this you can learn a competency. You can learn to do. Do this skill, say this, do that. You're being.
That's right.
How do you be? People walk up to you, hey, how you doing? But how do you be? Right? That's kind of what I wanted to know. So being a skilled woman that mourns for people.
That's right.
Houses other people's grief, and to be able to be with that person and face the wave or ride the current to come out on the other side with intentionality. And so that's a whole nother conversation that we can have at another time. But the difference between
I know, and
grief and mourning.
When you brought that grief up, I was like, that's exactly how it went in the group. But then they kind of shocked me a little bit because they did bring up grief. But ironically, a lot of them were kind of like, well, now how do I grieve somebody who's still living? How do I grieve something, or maybe a lost dream or a lost thing? But I would say flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted because I was like sitting there with, okay, I think we talk a lot about how we're going to grieve the things that have died. Or the people that have died. But we don't often talk about grieving things that are still active, living and breathing, but you can't access them. You either seasonally or just it's just done. And kind of not to loop back around to it, but when you think about those people that are no contact, that's what they're doing.
That's it.
They're actively grieving day in and day out somebody who's living and breathing. Somebody who they may have had a vision or a dream of being connected with, or are supposed to be. I would love to be connected with my father.
That's right.
I'm not connected with my father. That kind of thing. And so learning how to sit with that grief. That's difficult too. And they brought that up.
And shifted in the morning. But this is what we've come of time. I know we can sit here. I know we can sit here and talk. But I often like to ask this question. Is there anything? Oh, no, I won't. Not yes. I want to be more intentional.
Okay.
Please tell us something that we may have not discussed. If I said, Lisa Marie, you have this time right here. What is something that you would want to speak that you feel like would shift things in the insight, in the perspective through your work? Let me be fair to myself. Gently. my baby.
Yes.
So gently, because some of these things are righting me.
Yeah.
Some of these things are correcting things
Yeah.
in me. Where's the storm? And in my sister, in our group that we have, and we go in that group and we're like, we're going to be transparent in this group. But before you give us that last nugget, talk about the gentle side of self-correction and self-love.
The gentle side of self-correction requires grace and also the openness to be able to apologize to yourself for the things that perhaps you didn't know.
Yeah.
And even if you repeated the same thing, I'm still going to be graceful with myself because I'm still learning. This is a process. Nobody gets it right the first time. And even if you think you get it right the second time, you probably done messed up just a little bit. With intention, we want to do everything right. And we want to hit the mark. And we want to get to the goal post. But before you can do that, it's the same thing, the analogy with an athlete. Before you can be, the best track star, in order to get that time, you got to run it. You got to keep running it until you get it. And so there would never be a perfect first time or a second time. There will be many redos, but you have to give yourself grace in the process because this is life. And life gonna throw you some curveballs that you ain't never seen before either, and you have to be ready for that as well.